Here, Dr. John Lucas, James Kelly, Justin Russell, Gonzalez, Justin Carroll, Charlotte Lee T. Investigate town property.
Actually, that, probably,
Yeah, Bruce's Central Regional Council.
Theo Thompson, CRTPO.
Row Leonard, clear TPO.
Oh, Dale has an on company.
John Pop, open his name. Rusty Boswell, Bell Associates.
Is the adoption of today's agenda? Do I have a motion to adopt today's agenda? We have a second. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, agenda adopted. We do have 2 items on the consent agenda. CRTPO board endorses the draft list of regional impact and Division D projects proposed for local input points. NCDOT prioritization P 8.0. Go ahead, Travis.
Thank you. Oh, no, wait, we're going to do some technical. Theo, are you able to hear us? Is your computer on? Is it microphone on? Did you mute your microphone on your computer? Okay, can you hear this one now? Testing. You can hear me now? Okay. Great. So are we good to continue the meeting? Okay. We're good. Technical difficulties managed. Hi, everyone. Travis Johnson, CRTPO. I'm here to talk to you about prioritization 8.0. That's not working anymore. Oh, this stopped. Perfect. We're talking about the action requested for today. We'll give you an overview of the process we've followed to get to this point. Talk about the allocation of local input points and some donations we've received. We'll remind everyone about the local contribution deadline. Talk about the public engagement we've experienced so far, and then talk about next steps for prioritization. So today we're asking for that you recommend that the CRTPO board endorse the draft list of regional impact and division needs projects proposed for local input points assignment under NCDOT prioritization 8.0. This process started back in July of 2025 when we opened up, or in the NCDOT opened up the call for project submittals. We then created our project lists, had public engagement for that process, submitted our projects for review. We then received the draft list of scores back in May of 2020 or 2026. Once we received that draft list, the local input point window opened for regional impact projects. We then presented the proposed local input point allocation at the June 3rd, 10th, 17th, 24th, and the July 1st and 15th transportation staff meetings. Also, all of the TCC members were emailed the proposed draft list and given a week to review those allocations. We then are currently inside of a public comment period for that draft list allocation, and we are still collecting feedback. So I'm going to share with everyone a list to date of what feedback or the summary of what feedback we've received so far. And then prior to the board meeting, we'll share the final summary of feedback we have received. And so it was agreed to at the transportation staff meeting that we would extend the comment period beyond this meeting and just give a summary of that feedback, just to give a full 30-day public comment period. And so today, again, we're presenting the ask for the recommendation for the local input points. For the local input point allocation for P8, we did not recommend cascading project lists, and that was due to liminal funding, and then also to allow the regional impact projects and the division needs projects to have a better chance of competing in the tier of which they're located. And so we've proposed allocating 2450 for regional impact projects and 50 local input points for regional impact non-highway, and then for highway for division needs 2100 and then 400 to non-highway projects. And this is all following based upon the methodology minus the deviation we will discuss. We have received a proposal for local input donation from Cabarrus, Rowan, and PO. When a portion of a project crosses into the neighboring jurisdiction, you're allowed to apply local input points up to the maximum percentage that project is located inside of your planning area. So for the widening of Poplar Tent Road, that is roughly 17% of the project. So they have offered us 17 points to add to this project to submit. And staff recommends just receiving those points and adding them to this project. Additionally, in the spreadsheet we received from NCDOT, we originally were not listed as one of the MPOs along the Asheville to Salisbury passenger rail service. Additionally, we typically do not add local input points to projects that we have not submitted. The French Broad River MPO has reached out to us and asked if they donated 14 local input points to us, if we would add them to this project, to which we're willing to accept those points unless someone has a reason for us not to. And so this would be 14 points, again, because 14% of the project is along the corridor in Iredell for the CRTPO region. And so they would provide 14 of their excess points for us to add to this project for submittal for P8. The primary deviation from our methodology this prioritization cycle was to move local input points from I-85 to Mallard Creek Church Road. And that was to provide additional time to further look at that intersection and to reevaluate how maybe it should be submitted in prioritization 9.0. I think the discussion was around it being more of a corridor and less of an intersection study. And so those points were proposed being moved to Mount Holly Huntersville Road and Rosells Ferry Road. This intersection was also identified by Division 10 for receiving local input points. And so in our methodology, we discuss how we can change local input point allocation to ensure that mutual point assignment for these projects. And so by taking advantage of that opportunity, there's an opportunity to move this project much further along the prioritization process, because they will essentially get 2 100-point allocations for this project, which is more than a lot of the other projects on the receive, because it's a combination of the division and MPO local input points. For public engagement, we're still in our public comment period. We've promoted the comment period through social media, through our website, through the project webpage, press release, email. We also went to National Night Out on Tuesday and had a lot of events where we handed out flyers and made people aware we were in a comment period. We're also collecting feedback via email. If you want to mail us a letter. We have an online form using the Airtable. And then at the board meeting, the public is allowed to come and speak at that meeting. We've also shared our lists in English and in Spanish. And then we were at, six different, there we go. I can count. 6 different national night outs on Tuesday. And again, at this, we were raising awareness of our organization, just programs we do. And then also we had the flyer for the public comment period for P8. Overall, as of August 5th, we had received 17 comments, and the web page itself had been viewed 617 times since the announcement of the public comment period. We will continue to monitor this feedback, and we'll bring any updates to a transportation staff meeting. And again, we'll provide that final list of comments we received prior to the board meeting. Essentially, the comments have been general comments about projects or the need for projects. We've not received any significant new information that would necessarily alter our local input point allocations. And so we do not recommend changes. And again, that final public comment list will be shared at the August 19th transportation staff meeting. Communities, if you would like to affect the cost benefit score of your project, you have until August 12th to give us a letter confirming that you would like to add a local contribution to your project. If you would like to know how much money a local contribution might affect the final score, we have a spreadsheet we can work through with you to identify how much funds it would take to meaningfully alter your project score. But again, when I say meaningful, I mean the maximum it could be altered. Typically, you're looking at a percentage of a point up to 5 points total for that local contribution. And so if you'd like to see what a project could potentially be improved, we can work with you on that. However, we do need that commitment letter by August 12th. So please be working with your town boards or your town managers for those letters if you are working on one. So for next steps, this meeting, we're here to present, to confirm our local input point allocation recommendation. And then we'll have our funding commitment letters are due by August 12th. We will go to the CRTPO board this month for them to endorse our allocations. And then we have till the end of the month to submit all of our local input points and our funding commitments, and also to confirm receipt of the local input point donations. So with that, again, this is the action that is requested, and I can answer any questions.
Do we have any questions for Travis?
Travis, if the town received grant money from the federal government on a project, does that count towards like a local commitment, or how does that need to be noted in the STIP?
If you are going to make a local commitment to a project, we need a letter stating how much money you would like to add to the project. You are committing to the dollar amount. So if those funds go away or are not utilized,
We're on the hook.
you're still on the hook. So you're committing to offsetting the cost to NCDOT, which is the cost benefit ratio score. So if you commit to spending money on a project and you do not fulfill that funding obligation, if your project is selected, your project will probably be re-ranked in the following prioritization cycle and lose its status in the STIP. So if you have funds that you are committing to a project in our list, please get us a letter and we can discuss about what it exactly needs to say, but we need to know it exists, because I don't know of any commitments as of this moment from any project on our list.
Okay, I'll get up with you on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any further questions? Okay, we do have an action requested. It's on the screen in front of you. Do we have a motion supporting the action? Do we have a second? All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, action requested passed. Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one informational item today. That's regarding the designated recipient of MPTA. Brian Horton with CATS is going to lead us through this presentation.
Well, thank you, Chair. And yes, Brian Hort with CATS, but presenting today on behalf of the new Metropolitan Public Transportation Authority, or MPTA. Rolls off the tongue, right? And in fact, Travis was catching me as I was coming here. He's like, you could sit at the table. It's like, well, I don't know if I can, because of course you took action on bylaws and MOU, and you'll see that in kind of the actions that have led up to this moment. But I think that's still out for signatures. So to make it fully official, I'm just kind of waiting on that to come back. So what is designated recipient? It is a designation, of course, for funding recipients, or for formula funding that specifically the urban funds, such as 5307 funds and other direct recipients in the urban area. And Charlotte is a large urban area, right? In large urban areas, you can have a designated recipient. It allows those formula funds to go directly to, not to be confused with direct recipient, to that designated recipient. And that has historically been the city of Charlotte, right? In the Charlotte urban area or historically urbanized area, but now they're often called urban areas. That was the city of Charlotte. Since the city of Charlotte's being replaced with CATS is transitioning to the MPTA, and you'll hear about that in the next slide, in terms of interlocal agreement and the PAVE Act and all those steps basically replacing the city of Charlotte, it's appropriate to also consider replacing the designated recipient status from city of Charlotte also to the MPTA. And that will allow then the MPTA, as they become the new primary transit provider in our region or in the Charlotte urban area, to have that same funding relationship with FTA, to be the designated recipient for those funds. And still use the MPO process or coordinated process to do a split letter for the 5307 funds and share those with our adjoining urban transit providers, ICATS and Iredell, MTS in Mecklenburg, and Union County Transportation, as well as lead a call for projects for the 5310 funds. And by the way, 5307's capital funds, and 5310 is seniors and disabled, those living with disabilities. So that process is important to use. The Metropolitan Planning Organization that in the Charlotte urban area, of course, is the CRTPO, to facilitate that process. It's a requirement, actually, of FTA to do that, to come to the CRTPO and seek a resolution. That's one requirement. But it's also a requirement to also get the concurrence of all the area providers in that urban area, those transit providers I mentioned, ICATS, MTS, and Union County, which we have secured concurrence letters. CAT staff have met with each of those transit providers, and I believe in your packet you have those concurrence letters. And it is appropriate now at this time to try to start this process, because obviously the PAVE Act took effect in July. You may not know that. It was first passed into law last July by the governor, and there was a referendum in November of last year that was successful. And as a result, this July, that PAVE Act, that legislation, that state law took effect. And one of those things in the PAVE Act is that, of course, the MTC was dissolved. That's why I can't be at your table yet. I was your former MTC rep. And MPTA is now our policy board. That's already taken effect. Also effective July 1, the city and the new authority have entered into a primary interlocal agreement that basically functionally now CAT staff can start working on behalf of the authority. We're not yet, we are still at this moment city employees. We will transition over to authority employees. We're anticipated by January. But we are allowed now to work in that vein on this process. And we've been having a lot of consultants help us with that process. And we've been updating, of course, our board as well about that process. So the designation of a designated recipient is just one of those key steps. We have sought already or applied for our FTA grantee status. That application was submitted and is currently under FTA review. We already secured our NCDOT, our state grantee status. The application has already been approved, was submitted and already approved. So there's a lot of steps, but it's timely right now to start the process with the CRTPO bodies, including this body as TCC, to consider switching that designation from the city of Charlotte to the authority. I know that was a lot, and I'm here for questions. Shameless plug, though, we do have later this month a member academy. I think it's August 27th, in which we'll have a much thorough presentation about the transition process of CATS going to the authority, as well as about the formula funds. You can learn more about 5307, 5310. We'll have 3 presenters. I'm just one of those 3 at that member academy. But I'm happy to take any questions now. And this is just for information today.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Brian? Yeah, I have one question. Regarding the funding, are the 5307 funds, can they be used for planning purposes?
Yes, they can.
Okay, thank you.
In addition to 5303 that the CRTPO manages through the call for planning studies and the UPWP development process.
Thank you.
Quick question. So the governor has to sign off on this, and when is that anticipated to happen?
It would be after CRTPO passes a resolution, and then there's a letter that goes from CRTPO to the governor and the governor's office, and they can designate someone like NCDOT to sign on his behalf, then signs that to request from FTA, the region office.
The letter doesn't happen until the September meeting or
Well, so right now, this was the schedule, but there's a lot of moving parts. The CRTPO board member has not been yet seated because of the MOU,
Right,
the
like the
signatures. And also our FTA application is still pending review, but we did write the resolution in the packet in a way that if you did take action on or if the board, CRTPO board took action on the resolution, that the language says it's pending the FTA application. So it gives us that flexibility. So September's their tentative date, but we have a backup plan in case.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes the agenda items today. The NCDOT reports were included in your packet as always. I did want to just mention that Travis Jordan, who's sitting at the end of the table over here on the right hand, to the right of me, I'll say, is a new Division 12 rep for this board. That was a position that was filled by Anil Panikkar for a handful of years. So we welcome Travis to the board. We do have an announcement from Jennifer.
So next week at the transportation staff meeting at 2 p.m., I'll have a webinar on how to apply for funds for the discretionary grants program. And then the applications will be posted on August 17th when the call opens. So I've gotten several questions like, we're still finishing up the applications, and I typically just post them the day it opens. It just makes it nice and clean that way. And finally, you can see oftentimes I come down early and I just kind of come around the table, and sometimes it's socializing and sometimes it's actually talking about projects. I'm going to do an after hours or open office hours in this room after the TCC starting next month. And we'll do that definitely throughout the call. And if it's seeming like it's helpful, then we'll keep going throughout the rest of the year. But no, you can always email me or call me, set up an appointment. I probably would prefer not to do the pre-submittal meetings there unless it's scheduled ahead of time. So every once in a while, I have somebody who wants to do a pre-submittal meeting in person, which is great. I just like to have NCDOT at the table. And I won't throw Sean under the bus for that, but maybe. So oftentimes Jeff, used to be Theo as well, would join the call. So just putting that out there. But I'll accommodate you however I can. So with that, I am available after the TCC for any follow-up questions. I got most of this row, but some of you guys came in and I didn't come over there yet. So thank you.
Okay, before we adjourn, I did want to recognize Wayne Herron, who is a deputy town manager with the town of Cornelius, who's not here today, but Wayne is retiring at the end of the month. Wayne was a former TCC chair, was a POC chair. I had the privilege of working with Wayne with the discretionary policy development document that we had. Wayne is a great guy for all of you that don't know him. For all you who do know him, already know that. So he's got a smile on his face and a great sense of humor. So on behalf of the board, I just want to wish Wayne a happy retirement and say he'll be missed. And Aaron, you can feel free to tell him that we said that. Thank you. And with that, that concludes our agenda. So we are adjourned. Thank you.